They say some rooms are made for whispering, but no one knows that better than the staff at the Grand Blackwood Hotel. Since it opened its doors to travelers almost a century ago, guests have vanished, been driven mad, and met their end in this old building. But there's one place they refuse to talk about: room 404. It's not listed on the hotel map. No one knows how to get there except those who have accidentally stumbled upon it. And there is no key for it. The room can only be opened from the inside. The hotel management has done everything they can to seal off the room, but somehow someone always ends up checking in. The newest victim was Robert Campbell, a writer from New York searching for inspiration. He had checked into the hotel 2 days prior with his luggage in tow, along with a hefty dose of skepticism towards anything supernatural. As soon as he got to his room, though, he felt a wave of loneliness wash over him so intense it brought tears to his eyes. It was like the room knew he was an outsider and wanted to remind him that he would never belong here. Robert thought it was just a bit of sensory trickery by the hotel playing with his emotions, so he tried to shake it off and focus on his work. But even with his door propped open, he couldn't muster up anything more than a few sentences before his mind wandered off again. That's when he heard it, a voice just beyond the range of hearing, like the whisper of wind chimes or leaves rustling in a distant forest. At first, he ignored it, chalked it up to the old building settling in the night. But then the sound grew louder, taking on a rhythmic cadence that seemed to be coming from somewhere behind the wall. It sounded like someone or something dragging themselves closer to his room. A chill crawled down Robert's spine. Now he really wished he hadn't left his door open, but shutting it didn't help. The whispers now sounded like they were right outside his door. Panic started to rise in his chest. He needed to get out of there. Robert raced for the door and threw it open, sprinting down the hallway. As he rounded the corner, his heart pounding in his ears, he realized with a jolt that he had no idea where he was. The familiar decor of his floor had been replaced with something entirely different. Gone were the warm yellows and reds of his room's carpet and curtains. In their place were cold blues and purples with strange symbols painted on the walls. Terrified, Robert stumbled back, tripping over an unseen rug and scraping his knee on the floor. Blood welled up, but he didn't dare touch it. What kind of place was this? How did he get here? He turned and ran back the way he came, retracing his steps until he found his room. But when he pushed the door open, he froze. The same unsettling symbols from the other hallway were scrawled across his walls now, twisting around doorknobs and snaking across his carpet. Robert screamed, scrambling back, hitting his head on the door. But when he looked up, he saw the source of the symbols, thousands of tiny beetles that seemed to have materialized out of nowhere. They were crawling out from behind the wallpaper, pouring out of cracks in the baseboard, emerging from beneath the bed. Robert didn't know how long he stood there paralyzed with fear, but eventually the insects seemed to grow bored with him and went back to their hiding holes. Only then did Robert collapse, sliding down the door and sobbing uncontrollably. It took several minutes for him to calm down enough to look around. His room was transformed, but it was still recognizable. The wallpaper, however, was badly torn in places, revealing a dark, tar-like substance underneath. And the air hung heavy with a sickeningly sweet stench like rotting flowers. Determined to get to the bottom of this, Robert carefully peeled away more wallpaper, uncovering a section of the wall that was surprisingly smooth, like a sheet of paper. He reached out and touched it. A jolt of electricity shot up his arm and he recoiled as if burned. But then something unexpected happened. The smooth surface rippled like water and folded inward, revealing a doorway behind. Robert stared, stunned. It was as if a blank page had been lifted from a book to reveal the words written within. But how? He stood frozen, torn between the desire to escape and the morbid curiosity compelling him forward. He felt a strong urge, a compulsion to enter the room, but he resisted. Something about this felt wrong, sinister. Robert hesitated, debating whether to tell the staff about his discovery or try to keep it secret. In the end, he decided to keep quiet. What good would come of reporting a secret passageway that only appeared behind the wallpaper? No one would believe him. They'd think he was insane, just another victim of the hotel's infamous effects. So he kept it to himself, sealing the gap in the wallpaper with a picture and returning to his normal routine. But it wasn't easy. Every time he tried to write, the whispers returned, weaving tales in a language he couldn't understand, yet somehow knew. They spoke of things best left forgotten, secrets buried deep within the hotel's walls. Robert tried to ignore them, but the voices grew louder, more insistent, seeping into his dreams and pulling him toward the hidden door. One night, unable to take it anymore, he followed their call, pushing aside the wallpaper to reveal the dark void beyond. On the other side, he found a narrow hallway illuminated only by a faint green glow emanating from the walls. The air was stale and heavy, like stagnant water, and the whispers seemed to come from all around him. Driven by an unseen force, Robert walked down the hallway. It felt wrong, unnatural, as if he were traversing the inside of a pipe. The walls narrowed, pressing against him, closing in. Then the ceiling dipped low, forcing him to crawl on hands and knees. Just when he thought he might suffocate in the cramped space, the tunnel opened into a large, circular room. In the center stood a massive oak table surrounded by 8 chairs, each crafted in a style that spanned multiple eras. Robert approached cautiously, half expecting the chairs to turn and reveal grotesque faces peering from behind masks of politeness. Instead, he found a journal lying open atop the table, its pages filled with spidery handwriting detailing the history of the Blackwood Hotel and its many secrets. As Robert read, he realized these weren't just stories of a haunted house. The hotel itself was a sentient being, feeding on the hopes and dreams of its guests. The whispers he'd heard were its way of communicating, attempting to influence those who stayed here. One entry caught his eye in particular. Written in a shaky hand, it told of a guest named Eleanor Vance who had stumbled upon the same hidden room Robert had found. She wrote of feeling compelled to sit in one of the chairs, which, when she did, enveloped her entire being, trapping her consciousness while her body remained in the real world. Eleanor had become trapped forever in the Blackwood Hotel's game, and whoever sat in her chair would take her place. Robert paled, realizing the danger he was in. He had to get out of here, but as he scrambled to flee, he tripped over an unseen rug and fell, knocking the journal shut. The moment the leather bound closed, the whispers erupted into a cacophony of noise, swirling around him, taunting, reaching. Terror lent Robert speed, and he fled, stumbling back through the tunnel. But when he reached his own room, he found it empty. All his belongings were gone, taken with him in the blink of an eye. His bed was neatly made as if he'd never been there. Then he noticed something odd. The symbol painted on the wall was gone. The spots where it had been were clean and unblemished. Robert's mind reeled. How could this be? Had he imagined the whole thing? Was he going insane? Just then, he heard footsteps in the hallway, heavy, deliberate, approaching his room. Robert froze, his blood turning to ice in his veins. Whoever was out there knew he was in the room. The doorknob rattled and a voice, deep and resonant, boomed through the wood, demanding he come out. With shaking hands, Robert searched for the hidden door. He had to escape, find somewhere else to hide. but it was too late. The door burst open, flooding his room with light. Standing in the doorway was a tall, imposing man with sharp features and eyes like chips of ice. "Robert Campbell," the man said, his voice echoing strangely in the small room. "We've been expecting you." Before Robert could respond, the man stepped forward, reaching out a hand that seemed to glow with an unnatural light. "Come with us now," he beckoned, "and you won't feel a thing." Robert screamed, scrambling back as the man advanced, his touch draining the warmth from his skin, sucking the life from his eyes. He backed away, tripped, and found himself staring into the abyss once again. But this time, the tunnel beckoned, promising freedom. Robert crawled through, desperate to escape the icy grip that threatened to consume him. But as he emerged into the circular room, he saw the man step through after him, a cruel smile splitting his face. "It's too late, Robert," the man said, his voice dripping with triumph. "You're already one of us now." With that, the smile widened, revealing teeth long and sharp, like fangs. Robert screamed again, but this time it was cut short as the man lunged, enveloping him in an embrace that promised oblivion. And so Robert became another soul trapped within the Blackwood Hotel, joining the countless others lost to its insatiable hunger. The staff would later find his luggage abandoned in the hallway, along with a single beetle that had crawled out from the depths of room 404. If you're staying at the Grand Blackwood, listen closely. Do you hear the whispers in the walls? Can you feel the cold breath of ages past on your neck? Turn the key slowly, for every room has its secrets. And in room 404, the darkness is listening.